Sorrow. That's a really awful word to think about, isn't it? Think about this for a minute. Has there ever been a season of your life that you would say was defined by sorrow? When you look up the word sorrow, the definition is this: deep distress, especially related to the loss of something or someone deeply loved, more intense than sadness. Deep distress. When you look at that King James version of the Bible, it describes the Messiah as a man of sorrows. You see this in Isaiah chapter 53. The NIV translates it as a man of pain and suffering. If you look at this passage from Isaiah 52:13 to 53, verse 12, traditionally this passage of scripture is called the song of the suffering servant. We see these words that display and describe the type of experience that the Messiah was going to have living with mankind. And I want to look at just briefly the first 6 verses of chapter 53. I want to point out some of the descriptive ways that our Messiah suffered and was a man of sorrow and was a man of pain. And as I'm reading a few of these descriptors, please remember, who did he endure this for? For you and for I. This is what it says. It says that there was no beauty or majesty about the Messiah. That he was despised and was rejected by mankind. That there was a man of suffering that was familiar with pain. He was despised and we held him in low esteem. It goes on to say that he took our pain and bore our suffering. He was punished by God, is how it looked to people. That he was stricken by God, that he was afflicted. We see words like pierced and crushed and punished, and it was by his wounds that we were saved. Jesus Christ went through the ultimate sorrow for you and I. Think about this for just a minute. Where did his sorrows even begin? I think the first sorrow that he experienced was that he had to descend from the heavenly realms to the glories of heaven to living amongst people just like you and I. Talk about a demotion, right? He suffered by leaving his post in heaven. Then he had to suffer through all the emotion that mankind experienced, the highs and lows of emotion, happiness and joy, but then there's also fear, and there's hurt, and there's sadness. He experienced all those as part of that suffering and sorrow that he experienced. And then ultimately he suffered the greatest sorrow of them all. He was separated from his Father as he chose to be the sin bearer. And the suffering, when you think about this, the suffering that he went through is probably that much more intense because of his perfect nature. He chose to sacrifice his life and his perfect nature for those with imperfect nature. And although he is called a man of sorrows, Jesus was not a morose or somber person. Yes, he endured great times of sadness. Yes, he endured great times of sorrow, but he could rejoice in his sufferings because he knew the end game, right? It says that Jesus, in Hebrews chapter 12, it says that Jesus is the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus endured many pains, many sorrows, many burdens for our behalf to redeem us, the lost sheep. It goes on to say this, that because Jesus chose to be a man of sorrows and our Messiah, it says that he will wipe away every tear from our eyes. There will be no more death. There will be no more mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away, and that is the promise. Today, I hope that as we go through this reading together, it will be a day of grateful reflection on the fact that Jesus chose to be a man of sorrows, a man of suffering, so that as a result of him being that and being our Messiah, we can have hope, we can have forgiveness, we can have a restoration, and we can have a relationship. God bless.